Hello everyone, today we'll be looking at how to use a wickless alcohol burner, which is the metal object you see in front of you. Let's start taking this apart and seeing what all we have here. First you have the extinguisher cap, which we'll use to put out the flame when we're finished. You'll also see underneath this a rubber stopper. This is placed in that metal coil, which you'll see once we get this removed, to prevent the alcohol inside the burner from evaporating. So again, this is what stops our fuel from leaking out when the burner is not in use. And also, around the bottom, you'll see a metal strip called a heat shield. This will be placed on top of the burner when there is a flame to focus the heat upward. As for the body of the alcohol burner, this can be opened. The top simply screws off. And inside is just an empty container where we put our alcohol that we use for fuel. So I've got some alcohol here. We'll just pour that in. Once the burner is fueled up, you put the top back on and screw it tightly closed. This is designed so that if this is properly closed, you should be able to turn it sideways and nothing will leak out of it. It's important that you actually do this. Actually turn it up sideways and see if anything falls out. If it does, you'll want to dry off the burner and reseal it, because if this is not sealed properly, there is a chance that flames could come out the side and potentially burn you while you are using this. Once the fuel has been added, you'll want to wait about 5 minutes for the alcohol to travel up through this coil. Once you've waited 5 minutes, it should be ready to light. Alright, now that your alcohol burner is ready to light, simply take a heat source. I've got a lighter. And expose the top portion of the alcohol burner to that heat. And it should catch with a very nearly invisible flame. Now this is extremely hard to see. That would be because it went out. But even while it's going, alcohol burns with a nearly invisible flame. So you need to be very, very careful about whether or not this is on. Once the flame is going and it is stable, you'll want to carefully add the heat shield around the top. This will focus the energy of the flame upward and increase the potency of the flame. Also note the stands that come with our alcohol burners. If there is something you need to heat, you can place it on the stand and slide the stand over top of the alcohol burner and have a safe way to burn whatever you need to burn. Now, when it comes time to shut this off, this container will be very, very hot, the burner itself. So you'll want to use a pair of tongs to remove first the heat shield. Then you'll want to take the extinguisher cap, easier said than done, and drop it over top of the flame. And what you'll notice is that this almost immediately puts the flame out. You'll want to wait several minutes for this to cool. Don't immediately grab it. The body of this is still very, very hot. But once this is all said and done, you can put the rubber stopper back in there to stop fuel from leaking out. If we're going to be using the burners again soon, I'll ask you to leave the alcohol in them. If we're not going to be using them for over a week, we'll empty the alcohol out. Here you can see we have set up our alcohol burner to heat whatever we put into this beaker. This brings up two very, very important points about heat source safety. First, cold glass and hot glass look identical. There is no way to tell by looking whether or not that beaker is very, very hot or very, very cold. When in doubt, never grab glassware that has been exposed to heat. If you must touch it, use a pair of tongs to move the beaker wherever you need it moved. Likewise, for most of the temperatures we're dealing with, hot metal looks very similar to cold metal. So if you are moving something that has been exposed to heat, again, use tongs. Don't grab it with your hand. That's a very easy way to get burned, which we would like to avoid. Another safety tip involving heat sources in the lab is to never underestimate the height of a flame. If you see a burner with a flame that you think is about this high, go ahead and assume that the flame will actually reach this high, because sometimes it might. Not all flames are visible. So you want to be very, very careful and assume that the flame is much, much taller than you can see with your eyes. So never ever float your hand above a heat source, no matter how high above it you think you are. Don't risk it.